Hey everybody, I just wanted to showcase Google Maps, which basically has had a massive upgrade to it. Just happened a few weeks ago. It's still in beta testing. Not everybody has access to it. You have to request an invite. The invite that I requested took about 4 or 5 days before I got access to it. And I will have that link in the blog post as well as to where to get the invite from. And what I wanted to do was basically when I actually looked at the product and sort of started getting an idea of okay, what Google is trying to do with Google Maps product, and they're tying their Google Flights, Google Hotels into the product as well. And it's interesting how they have done it because it's different than what most people would have expected, and everybody didn't have a clear idea of okay, how does Google Flights or Google Hotel Finder like play its part into the Google ecosystem, and we see that some of that coming into play here, and you start to get a little bit of sense. So what I wanted to do was first show you exactly what they are doing with their product. Of course, the product looks sort of the same, but the layout of information is a bit different here. They've gone to a card style of information. So if I hover over the search box, you see this card appear. If I click on a city that I have done searches from uh, and before, and what happens over here is essentially it's going to show me the various photos, of course, getting around the city, traffic, and bicycling. It's interesting to notice this because since I'd done a city search, it's giving me information about traffic and biking. So it already is realizing that the fact I'm searching about the city, they want to give me options about how do I transit from one point to the other and trying to make it relevant to my search. They also have options about restaurants, cafes, and bars, of course, photo tours. They also have this uh, option to pop up this bottom slider, and they have all these images popping up about the city. And of course, if you hover over the image, it points to where this image was taken from, and it just gives you a little bit of sort of reference point overall. Now, you also see the fact that I'm actually logged into Google. I haven't, since it's not out in the open, so you can't access the Maps product right now any other way. And it's very interesting because that essentially gives them access to my social circle in the Google Plus product. So they will be able to pull information out of that. They have access to exactly what my friend circle is and what my friend circle is saying about various places. So if I was to do a search for hotels in Vancouver, let's see what results come up. So right on the top, I am seeing results where essentially it's giving me an option to say top reviewers are your circles. So if I was to click my circle, I actually don't know if anybody has reviewed that. Yeah, and it tells you that. Uh, why don't I go with top reviews? So top reviewers, what are they saying about hotels? And you see review options pulling in with the stars, number of reviews, and what it says about the product. So say I click on the Fairmont Hotel Vancouver, and again it's card style of information giving me photos about the product, a little bit of blurb about the hotel, about rating stars, and it's asking directions, and of course the business phone number is listed, the website is listed, and where the address where the hotel is located, and that address is also mentioned here. So let's search for directions. While you're seeing this home and work setup, this is coming from Google Now. Google Now is a product that they had released, I think, a few months back, maybe even a year ago. But Google Now is essentially that was an assistant that was released, and that ties back to Android. So I can actually set my home and work location on there, and what it will do is basically give me traffic directions and traffic information overall when if I'm commuting back and forth from my work to home, home to work, basically, and trying to optimize that experience and give me the best directions overall. So I can easily do a search by saying home or work, but what I'm gonna do is I am gonna I did a search again earlier for a coffee shop, so let's just click that and see what it pulls up. So excellent. It's giving me an option for transit if I want to take that. It's showing me the train and essentially if I want to walk after some point. So you can take the train after get off at that particular station, then walk to that particular location. Of course, I can walk, I can bike, and of course they have the step by step and various routes that I can take. Now, this is one of the search options that you look for, but what I'm actually very interested in showing you is their flight options. So why don't I search from Vancouver if I wanna fly to Toronto. Okay, so I just did a search from Vancouver to Toronto. My screen looks a little bit funny, so I'm just going to do a search again, make sure everything's okay. Okay, so since I had the bike option selected before, it's actually showing me the biking option, and yeah, and of course I don't want to bike to Toronto from Vancouver, quite a few thousands of kilometers. I am interested in flight. So with the flight option, it's actually showing me directly from my maps search essentially how much it will be to fly to Toronto. Uh, Very handy information overall because again it's tying back the Google Flights product into Google Maps. I can also click on Google Flights and it will take me to the Google Flights page with all the listings there with the pricing. Uh, and it also shows hotels on the right hand side, and of course these are sponsored results, they do say that. And if I was to click on WestJet, it's going to give me more details on WestJet flights, and of course if I want to book it, it's going to give me all these options here. But that's not what I'm trying to do right now. So what is interesting is, let's go back to this and see, I can have my overall directions, options. It can give me a lot of things here. It's giving me a lot of options overall in terms of transit, and they're trying to tie this in to like how do you get from point A to point B. So they have taken their flights product and tied that back into your basically your transit directions, your driving directions. Where I see it will become even more interesting is essentially if they were to integrate this into your Google Now, so or your calendar. So what will happen is essentially how I see is like say if you were having a meeting in Toronto with somebody and you put that information into your calendar, since Google has access to it, they can easily build up a recommendation. They can either email it to you or maybe have some sort of notification within your Google Now or any other of the apps and say essentially, yeah, for your appointment that you have set up in your calendar, these are the flight prices that you can essentially look at and maybe potentially even book. And they would do all this data mining process. Now it will also be very interesting if they were to do the whole data mining process where they tie in the flights and the hotels in the same notification and say, okay, these are your flight options, these are your hotel options, and give a very easy way of making that booking. So it will be very interesting to see if that all of that comes together. Because of that, everybody was thinking about, okay, how does it make sense for Google to get into like Google Flights and Google Hotel Finder, and we see some of this coming together with this, at least I think so. And it will be very interesting to see where this goes from this point on. Yeah, hopefully some of you have access to this and have played around with the product and have your own theories. I would love to hear about it. So why don't you leave a comment and let us know exactly what are you thinking and what do you think is basically Google trying to do with this, like incorporating the flights option into Google Maps? And yeah, would love to hear from you.